Okay, we're on. Hi, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about this again. If you've been to ETH Belgrade, you probably might have dropped by and saw the first version of this. And of course, how much is it? 8-10 months later, of course, we did some more work. So there's new stuff that I want to show. So my name is Nenad. I'm lead DevRel at Tenderly. This is my Twitter and Telegram hook. So if you want to get in touch, go ahead. And before I jump into the actual topic, everybody here familiar with Tenderly? Yeah? Okay. Some hands not? Okay. I'll just go briefly about what we do and what we're actually building. So we are the company that builds development tooling and infrastructure for various phases of development of dApps. And the first chunk is stuff for development and staging. So that means that we have infrastructure, forking infrastructure of public networks called virtual testnets. We got the visual debugger, that's what we started with. We got the transaction, very, very detailed transaction overview for analysis. So that's the first bucket, let's say. The second bucket is security and monitoring, and we have a couple of things there. The first thing is proactive security, I like to call it. That's simulations, allowing you to get predictions of what transactions would do if they touch the network without them touching it. And the second bit are alerts and web3 actions, which are like reactive measures. Alerts will send you a ping on Telegram or PagerDuty or trigger a webhook even. If something happens on chain, let's say an event was emitted and the third parameter is greater than 500 of something, so you get that sort of thing. And web3 actions, well, same thing, but it runs code in response to something happening on chain. And the last bit, we're also a node provider. So everything that you see in the UI, you also get through RPC. So that's standard RPC methods, but also the simulation RPC methods, gas estimations, some sort of gas predictions. There's 4-byte directory for decoding undecoded stuff from chain and so on and so on. So a bunch of things in there. But let's get to the topic, and the topic is CI. This is really slow. CI, raise of hands. Familiar with CI? Full house, okay. Do you think it's valuable? Full house. Is it easy? I see in Web3. Oh, okay. Okay, there was one hand shy and then it shied away. Okay, so it is something useful, but you know, how can we get it? But let's move it up. How about continuous deployment and staging in Web3? Does that work? Do you feel it's valuable for the stuff we do? I see. Yeah, okay, 5, 7, 6 cents. Okay, cool. Is it easy? I don't think so. But why do that? There's this thing, they say integrate early, integrate often, if you want to avoid integration hell. Because if you wait for the big bang, it's going to be a really big bang. And especially it sort of, without doing these things, some stuff gets slower compared to having them. And at the balcony over the cigarette, we had a little conversation, and Natasha said the industry is maturing. And there was another big word, but I'm not going to mention it now. Yeah, consolidating, that was the word. But anyhow, as the industry matures and innovates, like how do we mature and innovate the way we approach building dApps? So there's a couple of areas where that needs to happen. That's methods and approaches we have. Then there's infrastructure. What do we use to do that kind of stuff? And lastly, the tools that are necessary for that. And for the methods, well, there's composability of blockchain that we all love. So we can integrate third-party protocols fairly. We need to integrate them actually fairly easily, but that's not super easy, especially when developing those contracts. Staging and beta testing, that's also a big thing. And CI/CD, so you can sanely push your stuff and not worry something breaks, but also build on top of the stuff that others have built. When it comes to infrastructure, so the maturity that we're seeing here is, well, we have a lot of rollups now, but how do we replicate all those rollups if we need to have them included? How do we get exact gas estimation? And how do we make it team friendly so it doesn't slow down the team? Because that's what we want. And the tools, well, you need stuff apparently for debugging, apparently for simulating, and at some point you need pseudo mode. You need to go in and change every single thing, something that you cannot really do on an actual network, but when developing, you want to shake things on a deeper level. So when we think about that, let's just check out another thing, and that's the flow of work that's happening as we look at these different components. So we have smart contracts, and they're pretty much first-class citizens, let's say. So this is where the core logic is. But to reach the user, we need to have a bunch of other layers in between. So the UI gets this end over here, and everything sort of flows into the UI, into the thing that our users will be using. So to build that, of course, we need to have all that work sort of visible and integrated here, and everything propagates from left to right, apparently. And this sort of shows how difficult this problem is. Of course, there's a little bit here, there are bridges, but they make things even more complex. So CI and CD aren't easy for these reasons precisely. So for this, we need right infra and right easy setup. And of course, coming from Tenderly, I will suggest to use virtual testnets for this. And when it comes to infra, I'll just briefly talk about virtual testnets here. So if this is mainnet and I want to make a fork so I can do some work, but I also want to have access to the entire state that's available on mainnet, that's sort of easy. And you can do that like locally with your Hardhat or Foundry nodes, probably Foundry. But then comes the question how the other people in the team build on top of those smart contracts. And the idea here is that you would stage your smart contracts for other developers so they could access that. And simply this becomes like a shared infrastructure for your entire team. But if I'm building a UI, then you will see a lot of stupid transactions of me trying to make something work. And if you're building a subgraph, well, you will not like me at all for that reason, because there will be a lot of crappy data in there. So one very simple take on that is you can fork to fork. So that's staged, but let's make some isolation between each other so we don't, throw garbage around and make each other's lives harder. So in that way, this sort of helps the team collaboration aspect. And again, this is infrastructure, so it's not really doing anything but serving as infrastructure. And this is like the more important question for me, and that's the easy setup. So how can we make all of these things work? So we built a little GitHub action GitHub Action module, how do they call it? It's on the marketplace, and it's the thing that we're hoping to make the setup easier. And this is the easier setup. So this is a little part of a YAML file describing a GitHub workflow. And yes, here we have, it's using that Tenderly VNet GitHub action at version 10.15. And what this thing provides us with, well, here's a couple of things. It's easy forking and mainnet data access. So this is the thing that I need to add so I can get forks of mainnet and base mainnet. So Ethereum mainnet, base mainnet. And it's an array, so in a single step of your workflow, you can get forks of 50 networks provisioned for your workflow. Now, the next thing, you need to fund accounts to be able to do stuff. So, of course, and when I said we need pseudo mode, we need to be able to do all sorts of things. Well, we would like to set balances to various accounts, and this becomes pretty easy with a little shell fixture that we added. So it's a little function. You give it the RPC URL, you give it the wallet you want to fund, and you say how much you want, and there you go, you get it. In the background, it's actually using a custom pseudo mode RPC, let's say, that virtual testnets come with. So this is pretty much a cheat code that lets you fund a wallet with a desired amount of ETH. So there's that. And there's also, if we want to stage it for some sort of testing, we need to have some sort of public explorer available. And this becomes pretty easy with, you can control if you want a public explorer or not with one flag. But you can also say, I want all my source code to be visible, or just the ABI, so interfaces of errors, functions, and logs, or you can say none and nobody sees anything, everything is obscured. So with the public explorer, you get this, you get a transaction listing. Actually, anybody who's testing your dApp can access that. They don't need to have an account. It's sort of like, let's say, slimmed down version of Etherscan or our transaction overview. So there's that. And the last thing that's super important is artifact collection. So if I'm deploying 50 contracts, how do I propagate those addresses to the UI, to the backend, to the subgraphs, and so on and so on? Well, it's files, so that's built in. And if you want that, the plugin can do that for you. Just push and complete true, and it will collect all the hardhat or all the Foundry artifacts with addresses pointing to where it is. And it will do a little commit here, and you can see the infrastructure, and it's a big file, so it didn't fit all of that, but there's also individual contracts recorded as well. And this thing is available on GitHub Actions Market if you want to give it a go. And that would be it. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Are there some docs or videos showing how like different use cases for people who think it's interesting but want to see like how they can apply it?
Docs, yes. There's a doc with like basic step-by-step guide, and all this was released yesterday, so there are no videos yet. This is the first video about it. So yeah.
Do we need to have some paid Tenderly account, or it is available as a free trial?
Yeah, I'll just repeat for the video. Do we need to have a paid account, or it's available as a free tier? Well, for something like this, you would need to have a paid account, because on the free tier, testnets can take up to 30 blocks or something, and then you would need to have a paid account.
So there is option to try.
Yes, yes. There's a free trial as well.
Yeah.
Should developers delete the old forks after they finish the work on features?
So the question is, should developers delete old forks? I think there's also a limit to the number of running forks that you have, and there's also an API to pause the testnet. So the RPC shuts down. You can keep the data, of course, historical data if you need it for some reason, and you have like a quota of I don't know how many forks you can have. And this is actually interesting for if you're using hardhat, and if you want to use this for CI, so just for running tests, then in that case, after running tests, it will be automatically paused. If you're doing a deployment, if you're doing staging, well, it has to be running, right? Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.